Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Okay. Queers, attention please. Everyone who is here today, raise your hand if you are queer. Oh my god. There are so many of you guys. Wow, my audience is very gay. Anyways, in order for you to continue identifying as such, you must first pass a test. So please form a single file line right here. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Hello, you, tiny queer. How are you doing today? I don't care. So I'm going to ask you some questions before you can continue calling yourself queer. So question number 1. First, have you been cringe in the last 72 hours? No. Oh, this is very good. Good. Have you been experiencing any flaws lately? Enough to cripple your character development, perchance? No. Wow. Look who is killing it. Last question. Have you been committing any wrongdoings lately that could hurt others? Yes. What? Like being too gay? Oh, like tax fraud? Murder? And being in a toxic, abusive relationship? Oh, so you failed. Yeah, you can't be queer any longer. You did not pass the test and you cannot identify as that anymore. Yeah, you're making us all look bad. Yeah, it is your fault. So if you do not mind, please leave and be all of that somewhere else, not in this community. Thanks. What a freak. All right, next. It's a new world, everybody. Inclusivity for gay people is in, but only if you're on your best behavior. And that kind of sucks. Queer representation in fiction should be bad, actually. No, for real though, let me explain. Queer representation in popular culture has been through the ringer, to put it insanely mildly. She has had more ups and downs than your mother. Sorry. I don't know why I said that. From queer people only ever being depicted in a bad villainous light, to being killed off immediately in the story, to being accused as the reason why your favorite video game flopped. Queer people have not always been treated with respect. Most cases we aren't. If you are a betting person, then it's safe to bet on us not being treated well. And in an effort to fix these issues in this past, we have seemed to swung in an entirely different direction. Now, we have the perfect character effect, where queer characters nowadays are only ever shown to be a beacon of purity and a sign of perfection, to the extreme of maybe lacking a personality, or their main problems only ever being their queerness. Queer people seem to be oddly sanitized in popular media these days, somehow implying that we will only make it to the silver screen if we are on our best behavior. And we as a queer community want queer people to be shown positively so much due to the past that it's hurting us. Because now we've got it in our head that when a queer story is told and it isn't a perfect work of fiction, or it's cringe, or tells a story riddled with dark themes and disturbing tropes, and or simply depicting a queer person as a bad person, it is ridiculed and labeled as the worst thing to happen to the queer community. So this is bad, but not bad in like a good way. Today we're going to be talking about indie, low-budget queer stories that were primarily posted and consumed online. The webtoons, boyfriends, and killing stalking, and ask the question of, should queer representation in media be bad? Should queer stories and characters suck ass? Why did they need to? Let's answer it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is E, as in hot E, like a bag of talkies. I'm the obvi. They be trying to copy. I'm the Nah, gnarly. Did you like that slam poetry? You gotta snap if you did. Like it or not, that is the best piece of literature produced by our generation, but y'all are not ready to talk about that yet. And I am arguing for queer rights and queer wrongs. Please like and subscribe because, like, why aren't you subscribed already, please? Don't make me hit you with that Pixar smirk. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, then for just $5 a month, you can become a member on the Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/easocial, where you will get a shout out at the end of every single video, and you'll be able to see videos like these super duper early. Okay, let's go talk about queer people, my favorite thing. Hello, I'm a Victorian child. Obviously. No, McDonald's Sprite could not kill me. Thank you very much. And neither can a Vine compilation, Thou Art Just Mean. But what a Victorian child can do is build his own website with today's sponsor, Squarespace. Doth thou ever wished for a website? A website to, perchance, hold all thy products thou might wish to sell? Or to make blog posts about how easily Victorian children could die with an iPhone in thy hand? Well, Squarespace has doth covered. Squarespace is the #1 website building platform, with a huge litany of pre-built layouts for thou to choose from to fit whatever niche you wish. If one of those niches is to sell thy products, then look no further than their online store feature, where you can sell physical, digital, or service products. I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds nice. Also, Squarespace's email campaigns can easily help you collect your subscribers' emails and help build thy community through email updates, welcome emails, and sale announcements. The analytics tool will also notify thou on the impact of each email campaign, so you'd know if it was a hit. So wait no longer. Sign up for Squarespace today using my link in the description down below to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain, and make sure to use my code EISSOCIAL. Thank you again so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and to prove to you that I will not die from one sip of McDonald's Sprite, I will be drinking it right now to prove it to you. It's a little spicy. So first, before we dive into our examples, I want to elaborate more on the thesis. So I'm going to put on my little glasses. So why should queer people suck ass? Your Honor, because we deserve to. So here's the tea that I briefly mentioned at the beginning. More times than not in popular culture, such as Hollywood movies, comic books, games, what have you, queer people were portrayed in several different ways, such as evil or morally corrupt, in the background or as a side character, or simply not there at all. Just non-existent. Or if we are getting spicy, then queer people are shown in a dramatic, tragic light. Our stories of discrimination, hatred, and violence thrust upon us shown on the silver screen. As detailed further in Tessa Carr's article, Queer Representation in the Media: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We went from most Disney villains having a whiff of homosexuality about them as they ruin the lives of the heroic straight main characters, to sometimes kissing on screen in the 1990s, to today where there are arguably a lot more queer stories with queer characters in them in comparison to the years of old. But those previous years still ring loudly in our psyches, making us a scared mouse that jumps at the sound of a pin dropping. Ah, a new queer character in a popular piece of fiction? Where? By God, this character better be perfect. I want good representation, I want realism, and I want it now. Give it to me now. I don't want the past to repeat. I don't want to be disappointed. And some stories these days will be exactly that for many. Heartstopper is often cited as the queer coming-of-age story that we all have strived for. The two main guys figuring out their queerness in a sweet, wholesome way. Truly every love coming-of-age story that was previously primarily made for straight people is now available in limited edition gay packaging. And that's great. It's amazing that a movie and then later TV show adaptation such as Heartstopper were such hits and were such successes. While that is an achievement, it shouldn't also be the only model or the only mold. Fortunately, and sometimes unfortunately, we have grown very vigilant in spotting bad queer representation or just bad prejudiced writing. So much so though that we started to lose the plot. Instead of analyzing if a piece of media is purposefully displaying queer people as evil or being prejudiced against other queer people, we have decided that that's too hard. So just to be safe, anything that isn't wholesome, sweet, and pure is automatically bad representation. If a story is shown as queer people being sexual, then it is fetishizing queer relationships or always making gay things explicit. If queer characters are shown in an evil way or morally questionable, then it's back to our Disney roots of villainizing us all the time. If it's too sweet or too simple, then it's infantilizing us. And storytellers are aware of this. Nobody wants to be that guy that makes a villain and they happen to be gay and then be called a homophobe. So then, just to be safe, either we're only written as pure wholesome cinnamon rolls, or we're just not written at all. So at a certain point, we're going to have to ask ourselves if good representation, the kind that only shows us as good, as clean, sexless, and pure, if that is hurting us more in the long run. Because I don't know about you, but queer people aren't all like that. So why do we expect our fiction to always be this model of a good representation until it gets to a point where we ask, who is it even representing anymore?
Hot Chalky, Ulu.
Hello, the glasses are off because I have a tale to tell you. One as old as time. What is it? Well, what is worse than someone being offensive? What is worse than watching a movie that is genuinely trash? That's right, cringe. The biggest sin thou shan't commit. To be cringe is to be so embarrassing, so try-hard, so revolting and unabashedly corny that it genuinely inflicts physical pain on the observer. So to be cringe is a fate worse than death. This, of course, leads us to the hit, or infamous, depending on which circle you run in, webtoon by the name of Boyfriends. If you're not familiar, Boyfriends is a webtoon by Refrainbow that explores 4 college guys named Jock, Prep, Nerd, and Goth, being gay and being in love with each other, all 4 of them, ending up in a cute polyamorous relationships, and hijinks ensue. Goth is a trans man, and I believe is pan, correct me if I'm wrong. Jock is bi, Prep is gay, and Nerd is pan, and I believe gender fluid, but more on that point a little later. This slice of life stories art style is very bubblegum-esque, cutesy pastel, as you could see here, and it is unforgivable cringe.
Hot Chalky, Ulu.
Guards, arrest this man and take him to the gallows. We will not allow cringe in our kingdom. I went to Ren Fair this weekend, can you tell? Okay, but like plenty of things are cringe. Like your mother, for example. Sorry, I don't know why I said that again. But what makes this specific instance of cringe so unbearable that it shouldn't even exist? And, as some critics claim, its existence is actively hurting queer people. With a cast so queer and labelly diverse, you would think that it would be praised as an amazing LGBTQIA+ success story. So popular and successful that Webtoon itself featured it as a featured comic. A comic that depicts a polyamorous relationship, which we rarely ever see in popular fiction, between 4 queer people. It's huge! That's awesome! But unfortunately, it's a well-known queer story online featured by Webtoon that, objectively speaking, is not a masterpiece of fiction that depicts some queer guys pretty unrealistically all falling in love with each other and then having cute dates with like mundane troubles and drama for 200 episodes. But I mean, like, it's a slice of life story. I don't know what anybody was expecting. When it first came out, it started growing in popularity until, as I said, Webtoon, the publication itself, started promoting it as a featured comic, with these infamous ads being played wherever you went. With more eyes on it than ever before, more people saw this arguably cringe, simple storyline with queer men and decided it was bad. But not only bad, but it was harmful to the queer community, specifically to queer men, because of the following. The main characters in it are stereotypes of queer men, and thus hurts LGBTQIA+ people and how we are viewed. It also fetishizes these queer men. It, at the same time, infantilizes them by making the comic so cutesy. It is also way too sexual and sexualized, which is where the fetishization accusation comes in, I think. And last but not least, it promotes CP, because Nerd, the short one, looks too childish, because they are short and they're cute. Okay. So I remember when the Boyfriends drama was at its absolute peak. This was around 2022, and I saw whispers of it on my Twitter timeline, even though I had nothing to do with the webtoon world. I would see think pieces and strong hot takes on why not only is it cringe, but it is hurting the queer community. I didn't care, and I moved on with my life, thinking back to it occasionally here and there, until I got an email from one Null Bird, shout out to you, asking me to cover this this topic, and it reawakened a ton of memories. Also, if you want me to cover more stuff, you can email me. Email's in my about section, or you can comment down below, but email, because I will definitely see it. So I decided, okay, is this queer story hurting the queer community? Let's see. So I read a good amount of boyfriend chapters, a ton in the beginning and a ton in the end. And I admit here in a court of law that I skipped a few of the middle ones. I'm sorry, okay? There are 200 episodes. I can only be so strong, okay? You've read one boyfriend issue, you've read them all. It's slice of life. Girl, it's slice of life. What are we expecting? Governments are not being overthrown. Let's just say that. I can skip a few chapters. Everybody's still alive. They're all still together. They're all still gay. Relax. I also read a ton more of discussion posts and blog posts and all that stuff that, of course, rotted my brain, as usual. And I watched a few of the YouTube videos about why Boyfriends is so trash that got hundreds of thousands of views each. Whoa! We got opinions. This is a hot topic, I have come to realize. And I've also come to realize that y'all do too much. But this we know. And I believe enough time has passed since the swell of this controversy that I think it's a safe time to talk about it. That's what we're doing. So let's talk about the allegations. So personally, a homegrown e-social opinion coming to you right now. I don't think it's that cringe. Some of you guys are thin-skinned. It's a story of cute miscommunication, pining, and other romantic tropes that aren't really for me. I simply do not consume slice of life fiction. I would rather read a story about queer people trying to kill each other throughout time and space, only to fall madly in love with each other at the end through a series of cryptic notes. Oh, this is how you lose the time war. How I adore you. Life-changing literature right there. Also, I do enjoy some lesbian necromancers in space. Gideon the Ninth, shout out to you. I start screaming. Guys, go read both of those. Y'all want sapphic fiction? Read it. But, back on Boyfriends, even though I don't consume slice of life fiction, I also didn't rip out my eyeballs out of my head when I was reading it. It's cute! It's not the Mona Lisa, but it's cute. But at the exact same time, it didn't seem like it wanted to get the Pulitzer Prize for literature. I didn't think that that was its goal. It seemed like it wanted to tell a cute slice of life story about queer polyamorous guys. And as far as I'm concerned, mission accomplished. But like, no, it's just poorly written and poorly paced and unrealistic. It's bad and it's awful, and why is this being promoted, and it's hurting us. It's just bad is the main complaint. So straight people can have Hallmark movies that are worse, super cringe, soulless and corporate, and insanely corny, and not taint all of straight people. But us queers can't have a cheesy non-masterpiece of fiction because it's gonna make us all look bad. Okay, for the whole it being too sexual and fetishizing queer men allegation, well, there are some mature jokes and there are some innuendos here and there, but overall, pretty abundantly very sweet and very mundane. The whole it's too sexual allegations, low-key bad. Low-key crazy. The craziest panel I saw was Prep waking up with hickeys on his neck and the couch all f***ed up because something wild happened last night, insinuating they banged. Okay. Gay people have sex, guys. Whoa! Everybody hit the floor, no way. But because they are queer and are implied to be sexually active, that makes it fetishization, because queer people are often shown as like sex freaks in fiction sometimes. And so now showing queer people in a sexual way is now bad. And so this sexualizes gay men in a bad way. So straight people can imply sexual activity in a coy way and have shows with sexual themes to them and waking up next to each other like, wow, crazy thing that happened last night. But not us queers. No, not us gays. Because it's gonna make us look dirty, you know, and we would further perpetuate that queer people are all sex freaks and fetishize queer people. Got it. I'm on it. People also find the webtoon and accuse it to be stereotyping queer men and further hurts gay people because, as this one website said that had a collection of criticisms, quote, the portrayal of the relationships as constantly dramatic is not accurate or helpful. I don't know, man. Jock is a jock, prep is a prep, nerd is a nerd, and goth is emo. Like, that's kind of the whole shtick of leaning into tropes and archetypes and stuff like that. It's a meaningful, in-depth depiction of any human in this show is a little weird to expect when they're named goth and jock. Also, gay male characters having drama is stereotyping, I guess. Sure, I could see where you're coming from because gay men are stereotypically known to be kind of catty until their rebrand recently. Now they're all nice.
Because, you know, gay guys used to be mean before media training.
And they're nice now.
Gay guys are nice now. I mean, look at me. I do believe that bi people exist. I have grown a little weary of hearing from them.
But may I remind the court that it's slice of life. There has to be some level of drama in the show, or it's just gonna be them staring at a wall gaily, you know? A common joke in the hatred of boyfriends was wishing that there was a car crash or that all the characters died in a car crash just so something happened because it was so bland. But there is drama, but it's too mundane and silly. So it's stereotyping gay men as always being in drama. So we want drama because it's boring without it and it's lame. But if there's too much mundane drama, it's still bad and harmful. Okay, so no gay gossip girl for us guys. Pack it up. The straights can have fun and be messy and petty, but we can't because it's gonna make us look bad and it's gonna perpetuate our stereotypes. Okay, so far, we can't be cringe. We can't be too sexual, but also like not too cute either, as you know, make us look like toddlers. And we can't have like too much drama amongst ourselves that is just like boring stuff. We're gonna like, you know, look bad and represent ourselves poorly. So queer stories should only be on their best behavior all the time, and every single queer story should be like this. Every single one. Right. Okay. No more fun. LOL. I can't have sex and I can't gossip. What the is the point? Also, I would like to tell the court that the author of Boyfriends, the indie, self-published through Webtoon, pick you up by your bootstraps, low budget author of Boyfriends is a queer trans man who got accused of fetishizing queer men and trans men because he made goth trans when he's a trans guy. But people don't believe him and call him a fujoshi, obsessed with gay men, woman, which is transphobic. Thank you. Yeah, he just kind of wanted to have fun with polyqueer people and found a lot of success from it, which is great. Yeah, so this isn't, by the way, bullying a major corporation because they made gay people wrong. It's not that at all. It's bullying an indie queer trans man from Indonesia because his comic isn't perfect and it's not good representation and it's cringe. What an easy way to make it so that no queer stories are told if we bully every single one from existence. And when I mean bully, I mean bully. Look at some of the comments on the first few episodes, especially the first one. And of course, we've been showing some TikToks and posts throughout so far. Not the criticisms of Boyfriends, the bullying. But more on that later. Okay, so we covered gay people being cringe, but what about gay people being just really f***ed up? Like so f***ed up beyond belief that it's disturbing. Because what's worse than being cringe? Right, depicting a graphic toxic Stockholm syndrome-like relationship. Like, I hope, right? Like, I hope this is worse than cringe, right? Like, I hope cringe isn't the worst in your eyes. Enter Killing Stalking, which is another indie solo author webtoon about sunshine and rainbows. Kidding. There is indeed killing and there is stalking in this tale. It follows this guy named Bum who has had a really bad abusive life. It's not funny, it's pretty bad. He then falls in love head over heels for Sung-woo, the sunshine boy who everyone likes because he's so sociable and handsome and talented and amazing. And Bum becomes obsessed. So obsessed that he breaks into Sung-woo's house one day because he was what? Stalking! Yes, he was stalking. Then he finds a woman tied up in Sung-woo's basement and finds out, oh no, Sung-woo is a serial killer. And thus we have the killing. And the stalking, honestly. I don't know why anyone was surprised. It was on the label. I don't know why anybody would be surprised by the contents of this webtoon. It is 100% mature and has some pretty graphic content in there. It is generally pretty like the topics are heavy. And in my opinion, which I believe is correct, none of the characters are portrayed desirably. None of them are like, check out this great guy, get a load of this guy, you know? Because it's a dark thriller webtoon, it's supposed to be dark. Paragons of virtue will not be present. But of course, it still caused a crap ton of discourse when it first hit its peak. This was also like a few years back. I read Killing Stalking way back when I heard all the hubbub that was going on about it. And I did not finish it, admittedly, because it was not for me. It was a bit too dark and it was a lot. I am not squeamish when it comes to disturbing storylines, but it wasn't at the time something I wanted to read casually you know? But whatever floats your goat, I could recognize that it was written very well. The art is haunting, and overall, I think it was created very well. At the time, I saw a lot of criticism for the graphic nature of it, something I won't go too in depth with here for fear of YouTube, but saying a webtoon called Killing Stalking is controversial is a little crazy because it's marked as mature on Webtoon. It has its content warnings and it's called, again, Killing Stalking. I don't know why people were reading it if it made them uncomfortable. But the reason why this Webtoon is in this video is because it does tell a queer story in a way. One that is so horrible, it makes people hesitant to label it as such. A whole war was waged over whether or not it was a BL or a boys love story or a yaoi, since Bum is gay, but Sungwoo is admittedly not. As he says here where he went, and I quote, "I'm not gay." I mean, straight from the horse's mouth. But Sungwoo does have sexual instances with Bum. Kind of crazy to call it that, but there is some of that going on. But in Sungwoo's case, it really seems like he's enacting these horrible acts more out of a lust for power and not so much for the male form. Sexuality is also very confusing and messy, and Sungwoo does not have a good relationship with his own sexuality. So, who is to say? Debating whether or not the bro is? Valid conversation. But Bum is gay, and they do develop this really weird, toxic, abusive, dependent Stockholm syndrome kind of relationship. Again, I can do dark stuff. I can't do dark stuff of the sexual nature. Not for me. Because I don't mean abusive, toxic, like how Bakugo used to bully Deku in My Hero Academia, so it would be toxic to ship them. Oh no, he used to bully him. That's not good. I mean toxic. Like, that word doesn't even justify it. Toxic seems petty. Like, actually abusive and dark and horrible. Again, I don't really want to go into it, but now this is an abusive toxic dynamic. Okay, you know? So in my opinion, it is a queer story, technically. It is, especially from Bum's POV, as it brings up the messy and sometimes ugly nature of sexuality. Is it a good queer story? Does it show us queers in a good light? One we should emulate or look to for good representation? What is it called again? What's the title? No! It is a well-written, gritty depiction of a horrible series of events. It shows these events as bad, disgusting, and horrific. There is no glorification of the abuse, violence, or killing, nor the stalking. It's a story at its core about sexuality, the use of it for violence, the use of it for obsession, and the use of it for power. Having queerness be part of this already taboo exploration of such dark concepts, I think, is pretty human and pretty cool. It adds a layer of humanity to it. Because yes, queer people are sometimes bad people. Yes, queer stories can be gross. This story isn't demonizing or somehow fetishizing, since y'all love to throw that word around a little too much. Queer man. Bum isn't a creepy stalker because he's gay. Sungwoo isn't everything that Sungwoo is because queerness had anything to do with it. Queerness is part of the discussion, but it's not its epicenter. But because it is a queer story, you could see it, and some people do see it as perverting the queer experience or perpetuating harmful stereotypes. This constant need, this constant knee-jerk reaction to sanitize queer stories and queer people keeps us from being shown as people. I think stories like these need to be made, for those of course that can read it and that can handle it, to help us all explore the darkness and the rot that is being human sometimes. I mean, I don't want to find out about the rot of the human experience in real life. I'll read about it though, just as the cute bubblegum way of boyfriends allows us some escapism too and some reprieve. We deserve to be shown as human. Bad representation and all. So, putting the glasses back on because I want to and because I can read better. I actually need them. So I didn't fully realize this until like 10 minutes before writing this last section of the script right here, but there have been a few other videos that tackle this same exact topic with the same argument, which is pretty cool. I watched a few and many slayed, and I was yelling, right, right, and I was nodding along as the script laid open for 2 hours. The queer video essayists gang seemed to agree. We want messy queer gays and we want them now. I did notice how a majority of, if not all, of the examples these amazing video essayists gave were those of corporate gay representation, or high budget, mainstream movies, TV shows, and video games, and books. None or not many, of course I haven't seen all the videos, we're talking about the indie side of creating queer stories. So they're mainly talking about the mainstream popular culture that seemed to often depict queer people for straight people, like depicting queer people for a straight audience. The Love Simon effect of bland, sanitized queer storytelling. And if you like Love Simon and you're queer, period, well, you know, I'm happy for you. But it represents some greater issues with queer storytelling these days. It's also very much the empty husks of Disney movies these days, showing a quick glance at queer people kissing and then calling that a day. That's enough gayness for today, fellas. And it's also easy to edit out for markets that aren't partial to those sort of things, if you know what I mean. The type of queer popular mainstream media that is so not in your face about it. It doesn't shove it down your throat. And because they want it to be so subtle and not in your face about it, it soon strips any humanity from these characters. It just seems like a palatable way for straight people to gaze upon queer people. As Anthony Gramuglia, I'm saying that right, in their video on this topic states,
the other impact of these sanitized queer characters is that the media presents a narrative. Not simply that LGBTQA people are all good, but that they are all morally just, that the only defined way to be queer is to be acceptable, to be beautiful, to fit into society's standards as to what counts as good. And while there are cases like Nimona and the work of Stevenson at large that reject that normalcy, Disney and other corporations are selling you a version of queer identity that is acceptable to heteronormative society.
Nico Lang's Salon.com piece on popular culture sanitization of queer people points out the ridiculous self-censoring in Independence Day resurgence of its queer characters. The director said, nah, we don't want to make a big deal out of it. We're chill, we're cool gay. So when a doctor's lover wakes up from a 20-year-long coma, the two men reunite with not a kiss, nor a romantic embrace in the slightest. Lang says how the two could be viewed as really good friends, honestly, since nothing overtly romantic happens between them. It's like way subtle to the point where you squint and you're like, is that just bestie? That's too subtle, brother. It's easier for corpos to make queerness vague, to not show too much kissing or intimacy, because that makes one part of their target audience uncomfortable still. They want to keep it clean and pure and wholesome. So maybe the straights will like us and they will also buy and watch our movie or video game. This leaves us with some pretty bland, soulless depictions of our own community. So we turn to independent solo creators to make uncensored, real, gritty queer depictions. But then we don't like it when they do that. Getting mad at corpos for bland storytelling is one thing. Because honestly, period, those guys, and they only care about big number in bank account, money go burr. But then we turn around and try to enforce what the corpos are doing to queer characters onto the queer characters that indie writers and artists are making. It's so appalling that there are few intimate depictions of queer people in modern popular media, being lovey-dovey, being kissy-kissy, being spicy, and so few depictions of messy, up queer characters that go beyond being easily digestible. You know, sure, big gaming studios and movie studios are not depicting us as all evil or all morally bankrupt anymore due to our queerness. That's great. Good job. But the dehumanization and alienation continues if we are this sanitized, easy to sell goody two-shoes. That still doesn't show us as human, you know? The only difference now is that we're just being profited off of. I wanted to include a video game example in this video. I wanted to talk about up queer people in mainstream, important word, in mainstream video games. And I couldn't find a modern day mainstream example of a morally questionable person that happens to be gay. And I found this Reddit thread here that even talks about the slim pickings of messy queers in modern gaming. The Last of Us as Ellie exists, but you know, where are we? No f***ed up queer? Waiter, I'll take a f***ed up queer, please. You're all out? You know? But to take up where corpos have failed us, yet again, we turn to indie games. We turn to indie webtoons and fan fiction and queer stories. And these queer stories are told. And they're told in so many cool different ways, in cringy ways, and fucked up ways, and sweet wholesome bubblegum ways. And now we want the same sanitization that we hate Disney for to happen to them. Boyfriends is too sexualized, even though all it's got are adult jokes and innuendos. It implies some risky stuff, but God forbid we get some queer guys getting it on. Because sure, that maybe is a stereotype, but also popular culture doesn't really show us being super intimate with each other. Again, we have to be shown as pure and nothing else, and this is coming from our own community too. The creator of Boyfriends endured one of the worst online harassment campaigns that I have ever seen in recent memory. The creator that found success making a cute slice of life story about poly queer guys in college is himself a queer trans man. This isn't bullying suits in office buildings who point at arrow go up and oh no, arrow go down, and if arrow go down too much then we will just simply not show the lesbians in Star Wars kissing anymore. This is a self-made young queer trans man, someone who we want queer stories from, and we are actively discouraging other queer storytellers if they see others like Boyfriends getting massively harassed. The scale of this harassment, guys, is insane. You could see it in the views of the YouTube videos. Getting massively harassed for making a comic whose only crime was being cringe and mid at worst. All the other accusations, just picking at just to be mad. And then we get a cishet actor or a singer making a queer story and we bully them into outing themselves because straights don't get to profit off of us and our stories. Even when queer people do make queer stories, it has to be perfect or the masses are gonna tear you to shreds. And then all the queer indie artists are looking at that and being like, I'm scared. Look, I don't know if the author of Killing Stalking is queer. I know she's a woman. I don't know if she's queer. And it's not my business. She made a well-written, disturbing thriller with a messy queer story. And that is all I care about. You could tell that the story's not being like, hey, all queer people are like this, by the way. It's a well-written story, and they're queer. Sure, an argument can be made that Boyfriends infantilizes and or has the exact same blandness and simplicity as some of the corpo examples that I gave. But I also disagree. The comic is so obviously made with love and for pride for their art and for their work. It's made with queer love. I don't know, I could just feel it. Source, trust me, bro. As an example, the chapter that hit me the most, where Nerd approaches Goth and asks him how he knew his gender identity and how he came to terms with it. Nerd is scared to ask and, you know, a little nervous, but soon feels comfortable to come out as, essentially from what I gather, gender fluid, using any pronouns. They tell their boyfriend, the boyfriends go, oh, cool, okay. And then in the coming episodes, the group refers to Nerd as she, they, or he multiple different times. Sure, it was simple, it was a quick episode as they all are, but I found it to be a really beautiful depiction of self-discovery, something that many who question their gender can relate to. And it's sweet to see that discovery in such a genuine, sweet way. The comic does have a realness to it because it was made by a queer person. This is their wants, this is their desires, this is their experiences. Something we've always wanted. Like, yes, that's so cool, but we will never be satisfied with. The only cure to allow Boyfriends to be cringe and to be poorly written or to be silly and goofy, or the only cure to allow more creepy, f***ed up stories like Killing Stalking to have queer people in it. The only way we will all be at peace with this is because we need more. Hallmark doesn't represent all straight relationships because there's so many straight stories. Arguably, most of them are. So of course, Hallmark having a big presence is going to be dwarfed by the even bigger presence of every other single straight romance story out there. We need more queer stories. We need more from indie low-budget creators. We need more self-published or low-key single author webtoons. We need that in books and indie games that have the freedom to depict queer people as people. Because we're not queer first and everything else is secondary. We're nice. We're messy. We're mean. We're funny. We're conniving. We're gross. We're disturbed. We're joyful. We're selfless. We're selfish. And we're cringe. Because queer people are human. That's as simple as it has to be. Queer stories should show all walks of life, the ugly and the beautiful. So in that vein, not every single queer story needs to be good representation. As Jasmine Alum writes in her thebubble.org's piece called The Sanitizing of Queer Icons, quote, "To me, the solution lies in the creation of more LGBT stories. We simply need more queer representation in the media so that the sanitized versions would not be the only examples we have. The depiction of gay stories has undeniably increased the acceptance of the community. I hope that they continue to do so. However, instead of hoping to appeal to those whose only contact with the LGBT world is through their television screen, it is also time that more queer movies start being made with queer audiences in mind. And by being subtle or low-key about it, you're not giving us the respect or the same amount of effort or depiction that you would give to a straight couple. As Nico Lang wrote in his Independence Day article, all the other straight couples, when reuniting, would kiss on screen. But the two gay men, after 20 years of being separated, don't? The critiques about boyfriends often cited how it wasn't good queer men representation, nor good polyamorous representation. But I understand that frustration because we don't have any other stories, easily accessible, widely dispersed, mainstream even, that depicts a polyamorous relationship, let alone a queer one. So we have nothing to compare it to. And sure, yeah, it's not perfect. It's not. So the solution is to make more. And the solution is to not bully the ones existing, especially not the ones made by indie creators. Because boyfriends doesn't have to be perfect representation. It can just exist as our cute version of Hallmark. And fucked up stories like Killing Stalking can show the fucked up part of the human experience, you know? So the solution is to encourage queer stories, the good and the bad. Because right now with the ones we have, they're the only ones that we can look to for good representation. Because popular media has failed us. We need to encourage more queer stories. And they don't have to be perfect. You know, honestly, I prefer them poorly written. I prefer them cringe or sexualized or disturbed or messy, in fact. Because that's what art and fiction and humanity is all about. We need to encourage each other, especially the little guys, so we can make more. Especially in times like this. Write that f***ed up story of some mean queer people. Of course, don't make it they're mean because they're queer. Of course, just make a mean bitch. And then also, she's getting bitches on the side. You know what I mean? Hey, you know what I mean? Like, yeah! So, like, let's just do it. It's Pride Month this coming month, guys. Let's be gay and f***ed up, okay? So, TLDR, let queer people suck. So what do you think about these low-budget indie queer stories? You are allowed to dislike them, by the way. Want to make that perfectly clear? You are allowed to dislike boyfriends. You're allowed to dislike Killing Stalking. Don't make up stupid excuses, though. Just dislike it if you don't like it. And I'm not saying you have to like every single queer thing, by the way. But making up reasons why you're angry and asking for it to be sanitized or for it to be more like this and that. Nah. Again, censorship is not good. Hot take. I've said this before on the channel and I will say it again. So I have to ask you guys, this is gonna be my favorite part of the video. What are your favorite f***ed up little queers in fiction? I, of course, just finished reading the Locked Tomb trilogy. I'm waiting for the 4th. We are enduring the Electo pause. Who's with me on this one? That's the necromancer lesbians in space. And it's genuinely so f***ing good. Some of you guys recommended it to me on Blue Sky. Go follow, by the way, EA Social on Blue Sky. And I'm so obsessed with it. I really love it. Ianthe, like, she's just a bitch and I love her. I love her so much. And I live every time she opens her damn mouth. Big fan. I love her. She's so mean. Also, of course, you have to read This Is How You Lose the Time War. It is a pretty short book. That masterpiece of literature, artwork. It affected me to my core for weeks after. Lesbian time travel rivalry, angst, poetry. That's all I'll say. So tell me about your little favorite f***ed up queers or cringe or whatever type of queer stories that you like in the comments. I'd love to read. Also, guys, look at my angel earrings. Aren't they cute? Also, if you enjoyed our time together today, I'm gonna have to stop, drop, and roll and ask you to subscribe and hit the like button and the notification bell while you are there. You will be helping little old me keep cooking up these gay little videos amongst this rough tempest of a YouTube algorithm. So I get a subscribe subscribe, and you get gay little videos. I think a fair trade. Next month is Pride Month, so my ass is gonna be so annoying and so queer, and I'm very excited for the videos that I'm planning for next month. So of course, subscribe to be able to see them. If you'd like to support me even more, then please consider becoming a member on the Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/easocial, where again, for just $5 a month, you are able to get a shout out at the end of every single video and some other cool perks. So without any further ado, take it away, future me, to thank our Ko-fi members. So humongous thank you to Alien Eyes, Jonah, Lewandrill, Joanne, Moon, Blue X Crystal, Summers, Blue Ink Alchemist, Pauline, Shalami, Onyxide, Atticus, Ike, Pierre Burner, Sokable, Haley Robinson, Ray Fields, Zendella, Bus Driver, Wokapi, Blurry, Klee, Pandas Bombus, Friendly Fire, Decals, Kiara, Tronella, Basil Stanley, Moe, Zilfer, Luel, Tarek Dactyl, Alyssa Baum, and an extra special thank you to Topa. Thank you so much for your above and beyond generosity, and thank you all so much for supporting me. It means the world. So thank you very much. Thank you. Let's go. If you want to connect even more with me, then please follow me on my socials: TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I am E-is-social everywhere. On Twitch, we are going to be streaming a lot more often. I had to take a break for a while because mental health, and I have to be healthy. I'm so sorry. So we're going to be streaming a lot more on Twitch and probably also here on YouTube too. So keep a lookout for that, and I'm super excited for everything coming out. So that is all for me. Thank you so much for watching. And if I don't see you on Twitch, then I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Bye. I forgot I actually have real life glasses. Don't go anywhere. Hi. Thank you for waiting.